Hello, and today's learning target is I can graph linear equations from a word problem. Let's look at the first example. Frank has $10 and earns an additional $20 for each lawn mowed. Let X represent the number of mowed lawns and let Y represent the amount in his account. The equation that represents this situation is Y equals 20X plus 10. Graph the equation. So Y equals the total amount that he'll have in his account. And he already has $10, and then we'll earn $20 for each additional lawn mowed. So that's where the 20 times X comes from. Let's fill in the table of values and then graph that equation and graph those ordered pairs that we figured out from the equation. Okay, so I'm first going to plug in 0 into the equation and solve for the output. So Y equals 20 times 0, excuse me, plus 10. So 20 times 0 is 0, plus 10 is 10. So if he does 0 more lawns, he has still $10, and that makes sense because he already has $10 in his account. Now if he mows 1 lawn, so 20 times 1, that's 20 plus 10, which is 30. So he'll earn an additional $20. Makes sense. If he mows 2 lawns, Y equals 20 times 3, or 2, excuse me, plus 10. 20 times 2 is 40, and 40 plus 10 is 50. Now, if he mows 3 lawns, Y equals 20 times 3 plus 10. 20 times 3 is 60, plus 10 is 70. And last, if he mows 4 lawns, we'll have 20 times 4 plus 10. And 20 times 4 is 80, plus 10 is 90. So now let's go over to our graph, and we have to graph this. However, we first have to scale our graph and label our axes. Okay, so on the x-axis, we want to label lawns mowed, because that's the x variable, right? That's what we plugged in values for x to figure out how much the total amount of money he made. So on the y-axis, we have amount, and this is in dollars, right? The amount made. So if we know that we're starting with 0 in the origin, and so let's count by 2s. Each line represents 1. And then on the y-axis is the amount of money. So let's go up by 20. So each line's actually $10, right? And then we'll be able to fit all of the money in. 80, 100, 120, 140. Okay, now let's fill in, the table of values. So now I'm going to zoom out here so I can see everything. And so if I want to plot these points, 0, 10 would be right there. 130, again, this should be a straight line. 250, 370, and 490. Then I make my line. And it only has an arrow on one side of the line because it's only continuing in one direction, right? He has $10, so that's the base that we're starting with. So the number of lawns mowed will increase his amount of money that he earns. All right, let's look at another example. A machine salesperson earns a base salary of $40,000 plus a commission of $300 for every machine he sells. Let X represent the number of machines he sells. Let Y represent the amount he makes per week. This gives us the equation Y equals 300X plus 40,000. Then we'll graph the equation. So let's go ahead and plug in the values in the table for X. So I'm going to zoom in here. So the first one I'll do to plug in the numbers is 0. So I will say Y equals 300 times 0 plus 40,000. 300 times 0 is 0, plus 40,000 is 40,000. All right, the next number that I'll plug in is 1. 300 times 1 is 300, plus 40,000 is 40,300. Okay, I'll plug in 2. So y equals 300 times 2 plus 40,000. And this will give me 600 plus 40,000, which is 40,600. And then I'll plug in 3. And 300 times 3 is 900, plus 40,000 is 40,900. And lastly, we'll plug in 4. And 300 times 4 is 1,200, plus 40,000 is 41,200. So now let's go ahead and go over to our graph, and let's label our axes and graph this equation. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in here. And I'm going to label my x-axis machines sold, right? Machines sold, machines sold. And that will determine how much of money he makes. So amount in dollars. We'll go ahead and label, and I'll go ahead and count on the x-axis by 2's. And then the amounts I'll count by is, I'll count by 100s, but I'll go ahead and start up a little bit, so I'll make this squiggle line, and then I'll put 40,000. So that means I skipped a couple values, which means that's not necessarily exactly 40,000, but I skipped a few values so my graph can look accurate. Then I'll count by 100s, but I'm not going to label every line. So I'll go by 100. So this will be 100, 200, 300, 400. This would be 40,500. And then 600, 700, 800, 900, 41,000. And then 100, 200, 300, I'll just do 41,400. And now I'll go ahead and label the points in my graph. So I'll zoom out here. And I need to graph 0, 40,000, so right about there. And then 2 or 1, 40,300. So that's going to be right there. 2, 40,600. 3 is 40,900. And then 4 is 41,200. So right there. And I'll go ahead and connect those and make a straight line. And this would be my graph to the equation y equals 300x plus 40,000. So here's the last example. I'm not necessarily going to walk through the entire problem with you, but this is something you can complete on your own. And in the multiple choice question that will follow will be a question that you will have to answer based on completing this problem. So let's go ahead and read through and start it together. Andrea likes to babysit, but she will charge different amounts for babysitting different number of kids. She charges a base rate of $6 per hour plus an additional $2 per kid. Let X represent the number of kids Andrea is babysitting, and let Y represent the amount per hour that Andrea will charge. The equation modeling the situation is Y equals 2X plus 6. So don't forget to plug in the values in your T-chart or your table in for X into the equation where you see X and find your output Y. Then when you make your graph, be careful of labeling your axes correctly and going up and across by amounts that would be reasonable for your graph and to look at it as a good visual representation of this problem. Good luck on this, and good luck on your multiple choice question. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Bye-bye.